People with an average mindset make an excuse. People with an elite mindset make it happen.
Welcome back to the Coaching Life Podcast. Coach, how's it going?
Going well.
Same here.
Looking forward to getting into it today.
It's a good week. Feeling really good this week, I am.
You must be referring to the NFL season. And with that, I can fully agree.
Of course you can.
The total
Two-timer.
dominance over the New York Giants that happened on Sunday night.
It must be nice to root for 30 teams. So when one fails you, you can get right down the line. And
I'm a huge
Feel lifted
Jacksonville
up.
fan too now. I love Jacksonville.
Did they keep Nathan?
Trying to rank. Yeah, they did. He got put on waivers.
He's on the practice squad.
Nobody picked him up, and they signed him to the practice squad.
I saw it.
He seems happy about it. I mean, he wanted to stay in Jacksonville. I thought for sure somebody would pick him up. I saw Dallas released Will Grier, and then the Bengals picked him off of waivers.
Yeah.
And I thought, well.
Someone told me Baltimore. He would fit that offensive system in Baltimore really well with Lamar Jackson.
I just think that he wasn't going to be a starter anywhere. And so the hope was that he would be a number two.
Right.
Right? Like Jacksonville's number two. But I just think that the NFL values the older veteran backup quarterback that can help your starter almost like a coach. And I wonder if that is Nathan's not proven in that respect. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, if you don't have that in your starter, then it's good to have that in your backup.
The Browns have a rookie number two.
it's-
Notre Dame's quarterback last year. I call him DTR.
Yeah. Well,
He looked pretty good.
Because I'm thinking of like the Jets. It's flip flopped. You got your veteran starter now, and your
Not anymore.
your immature backup.
You saw the game last night, didn't you?
That was a really good game. I watched it to the end. Did you watch it to the end?
Well, I watched it until late in the fourth, and then I finished watching it on Gamecast because I was laying in bed.
You could feel that momentum come back to the Jets. Like they started to believe after halftime, well, we could still win this game. Let's win it. Yeah, their defense was great.
Amazing.
And Josh Allen was terrible. So that helps.
I don't know.
Was Josh Allen terrible or was the Jets defense
Exactly.
great?
That's a good question.
I don't think Josh Allen is as great as people make him out to be. I think he's really good. I think he's Brett Favre-like. I think you're going to get a lot out of him, but you're also going to have to suffer through him a little bit.
He's a
too.
lot better than I thought he was going to be.
Yeah.
So I think he has the ability to play elite for a string.
No doubt.
He can win a Super Bowl.
He could, yeah.
But he does have some. I think he's thrown 20 interceptions now.
Yeah. He leads the league in turnovers, both fumble and interceptions. From, I think the last statistic that I read about him.
Yeah.
Well, tell us about your Browns, man. Go ahead, take some time to talk. This is our podcast. This is your big week. We thought about calling our old buddy Lucas Moore on the phone, the live phone here and from the studio, and it'd be part 3 with him.
I would never do
Bengals
that.
fan. So
Here's what I want to say about the Browns.
Browns own the Bengals. They just own them. They
play really good
absolutely own the
defensively.
Bengals.
But the fun part for me is, and I wonder if any of my younger players, my freshman players, or guys that I run into the weight room, or guys that I know listen, but I talk a mad game leading up to.
But you never talk after.
That's right.
I remember you saying that.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
remember you saying
I like so I called a few of them out. Like I could, yesterday they were.
Is that? I don't mean to cut you off, but is that because you don't usually get the opportunity to talk after? Because it's typically the Browns are on the losing side.
Listen, the Browns have surprised many times. I remember them beating the Super Bowl champion Dallas Cowboys one time. You remember Jay Novacek slipping? This was in 90. This was in 91.
Who in our listening audience has ever seen the Dallas Cowboys win a Super Bowl?
Well, you have.
Depending on what our demographic. Yeah, anybody that's my age or older.
Do you remember that game? Jay Novacek slipped and he didn't get it in. Browns won.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember that day. It was a good. It was.
You
a good
review
week.
that today, then that's touchdown.
No, he didn't. He was short, big time short. But I would be like, I'd call them out, say their name, and they, I could just see their face, like, oh gosh, here it comes. We'll get hammered. And I just said, good luck
Let's
tonight.
get started.
Guys. Good luck. Yeah. Let's work out. So I like to do that. But it's week one. Week one's always crazy. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
It was pouring down the rain. I did send one of my.
The Browns could run the ball.
Correct.
The Bengals could not run the ball.
Yeah, well, and they got a
nor
situation.
could they pass the ball.
Yeah, they got in a situation where they had to pass, and it was tough.
Yeah.
I did send a text yesterday to one of my buddies and told him I would trade this year's draft, next year's first, and Deshaun Watson for Burrow if he was interested in giving him up. He was not interested.
Yeah, all the poo-pooers out there the day after he signs the big contract.
I got so sick of hearing it. Like they kept bringing that up over and over again. Like,
Well, people who shouldn't bring it up were bringing it up. People who know better, right?
Right, yeah.
Media personalities.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Or guys that's played the game.
I get it. I get it if you're a keyboard warrior in your mom's basement and you're always on those forums and stuff like that. I get those guys talking about it. But if you're a professional journalist, come on. You know better than that.
Well, I tell you, yeah. I know you're teaching a journalism class, Coach, but professional journalists is almost there's not too many of them out there right now, I don't think, in my opinion. Well, there's a lot, but the ones that have the voice aren't because they sell hot takes. I think they say stupid stuff on purpose just to get people to listen to them. Or
it's all today. What's everything about?
Negativity,
likes, your ratio.
Well, right, yeah.
And so what do you have to do to get those?
Yeah.
You got to have a hot take, or you got to do something. And I agree. I don't think it's
It bugs me. But yeah, Browns had a good week. It was fun. I hope the Browns and the Bengals both win this week.
It doesn't get any easier, I don't think, for the Bengals.
It doesn't for the Browns.
The Browns play the Steelers.
Browns play the Steelers and the Titans and the 49ers.
Why are these teams playing?
The Ravens.
We're starting right off with two huge divisional games. Why is that happening now?
I think they changed that a couple years ago.
I don't ever remember.
Oh, you know what they did? They changed it. They put the divisional games at the end. I don't know.
Yeah, Dallas
did.
I mean, not everybody did, but I don't think, did they?
Well, no. Couldn't have, because the Ravens beat who?
That's true.
The Cardinals, or no?
They didn't play the Steelers, did they?
They beat C.J. Stroud, didn't they? They beat the Texans. Ravens beat the Texans.
Okay.
C.J. Stroud. Yeah, C.J. Stroud had a decent game.
Did he?
Yeah, he's all right. Not horrible.
I had somebody ask me, this is switching gears a little bit, still on football and watching on TV. I had somebody ask me for my take, or our take, Coaching Life podcast take, on Deion Sanders. Prime.
About the way he was attacking the media?
Well, just him in general. Like his coaching style, his flamboyancy, his me-centered. And that was kind of the ask was, I'd like to hear your thoughts on Deion. And what they don't know is I'm actually a Deion fan. Well, Deion played for the Cowboys and the Reds, right?
Right.
So and
the Braves and the Falcons.
One of the greatest athletes, all around athletes, just freak athlete to suit up any.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how you could deny that.
Put a tennis racket in his hand, he probably would have been able to play pro there too. I mean, it's So what do you think? What do you think about?
I'd say ask his players.
Deion. Yeah. Oh, they believe, don't they?
They sure do.
They have the believe in as well as the buy in.
Yeah.
I think we'll find out a little more about them when they face some true adversity. I mean, Nebraska's quarterback flat out gave that game away on Saturday. Just couldn't keep a hold of the ball. I mean,
but their quarterback still had a great game.
They played good defense. Oh, yeah. But Nebraska played good enough defense to win that game. If you're the defensive side of the ball for that team this past Saturday, you're frustrated.
Yeah, I hear you.
You held them to 3 points, 0 points for a long time, and you were on the field the whole game, it felt like.
I don't mind Deion. No. And I enjoyed the way that he was sticking it to the media after they were, and it's like they don't want
receipts.
Yeah, and they don't want to speak up. Mm-hmm. That's I can't stand that.
Yeah. Own it.
Yeah.
You said it. Own it.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's just.
Yeah, he calls them out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that for sure.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I mean, you know what you're getting with Deion. you know you're going to get a guy who likes to be in the spotlight.
Sure.
He's going to have cameras all around him. He's going to have a TikTok, and he's going to put videos. He's going to have someone putting videos of him getting on his players about dress code and things like that. And whether you like it or don't like it, that's, it's not like you don't know that's what you're going to get.
Yeah, and right. I've always I'm not a big fan of the post game interviews and
right.
halftime interviews and all that. Like I've never been.
During the game now.
I know it's ridiculous. I've never been a big fan of asking especially like the players they're up there, they just lost or whatever it is, and you're asking them questions and they've got all that emotion in them, and to be able to answer that's really tough. That's difficult. And then depending on how they answer, we hammer them.
Could you imagine coming straight out of a meeting? Let's say you have like a project manager's meeting with some new construction or something much less, intense in terms of the caliber of competitiveness that you're engaged in for a couple of hours. You're in that meeting, and as soon as you walk out of the room, you've got reporters standing there wanting to ask you about your opinions on how things went in there.
Yeah, and they badger you.
And now they come into the meeting and they pull you aside for a second while the meeting's going on.
True,
and ask you. That's what's happening. These guys are doing their jobs.
Yeah. So, Dion just happens to be a type of person that loves to play that game.
He'll embrace it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so
and he plays it his way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. He loves the spot.
Yeah.
So I like it. I like seeing, I like seeing a guy like that doesn't mind to be in that.
Yeah.
And he'll handle the adversity well. I think
he will too.
He's going to,
Yeah.
They may not like the way he handles it, but who cares?
Well, speaking of that,
they handle
people don't understand this about Dion and Kirk Herbstreit made this point on Saturday as well, is when people see Dion, they see the flamboyancy, the wearing the cowboy hat, look at me, that guy, everything is in the public, and it's a little different. But what they don't realize is that he is an old school coach. He is an old school. He is brought into every program that he's come to old school principles for playing football, not just for playing football, but for life, right? We're going to do things the right way all the time in everything we do. The expectations are always going to be this. And sometimes he'll say, this is the expectation for you, not for your coaches. Right?
Yeah.
I can wear a hat in the meeting. You can't. That's one example.
Did he get hammered?
That's one of the things people hammered him for. Here he is getting on guys about wearing a hat, making a guy leave because he's wearing a hat in the meeting and he's got a hat on.
Okay.
Right? But I mean, that's the benefit of being the coach.
Oh yeah, and
if you set the expectation, this is what we expect out of our players, then what's the big deal? I mean, this is what we expect out of this. I mean, that's why I have a page in my manual. This is what we expect out of our players.
Yep,
this is what we expect out of our coaches. This is what we expect out of our parents.
Right. I probably wouldn't do that.
No, personally, I wouldn't either. But I would want to do the same. I would want to wear the same thing that I expect them to wear.
Right, but they knew the rule.
Right.
It's like I always went back to Josh Gordon. The only thing Josh Gordon had to do was not smoke pot for 12 months.
Right.
And he would have got $80 million.
Yep.
And he couldn't just not smoke pot for 12 months. That's all he had to do.
Yeah.
And people are like, well, pot should be legal. It's just, it's just marijuana. Yeah, okay. But he knew all he had to do was not smoke it for 12 months, and he would get $80 million.
Yeah, but the argument that gets all of the people riled up is that's a stupid thing. That's a stupid rule. Well, it is the rule.
But when you sign up for stupid rules, if you get $80 million,
that's who Dion is. Dion is the guy that says, "Oh, I don't care. It's the rule.
Yeah.
Just do it."
Yeah. I missed that. Did they interview him? Did they ask him about it?
What's that?
About him wearing a hat and kicking a kid out?
I don't think so. No, that was a long time. That was like this past summer when he first was meeting with the team and basically laying down the ground rules with them and things like that.
Good stuff.
Yeah. Separating the men from the boys in that locker room right there. Speaking of last week's topic.
I've gotten some feedback, or at least people listening in on our Boys to Men podcast, so they really enjoyed it. So
okay, good.
Yeah,
good. Yeah, I thought I went back and listened to that one as well. I don't always listen all the way through, but I was curious to hear how that one sounded, and I thought it was a decent episode as well. Good job. Good job, Pat.
Coach, since you just brought that up there, I was talking to somebody and they're confused about our relationship.
Our relationship?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I always call you Coach Stewart.
But I call you Pat.
And you call me Pat.
Yeah.
And they're wondering why you don't.
You call everybody Coach.
So
we'll walk out of the studio. You see, what you guys don't understand is we'll walk out of the studio here in a few minutes, and he will see some random guy that works at the university, and he'll say, "What's up, Coach?" And that's just because Pat can't remember names.
Shoot.
That's my trick when I go to these conferences.
Yeah.
It's easy to call everybody Coach because I can't remember what your name is, bud. But everybody's a coach there. So.
I called someone coach the other day at a football game, and it wasn't the person that I thought it was. I don't call people coach because I don't remember their names.
I know.
I think everyone coaches.
But you know what? Yeah, and that's the whole. That's the premise of this podcast.
Right.
But I also know that you don't care what people call you. We've talked about that before.
That's true.
I don't know if we've talked about it on the podcast, but you've asked me, do you want your kids to call you Coach?
Yeah.
Your players? Your kids? Your young men?
Kids. We said that's a allowable term.
Yeah. Term of endearment.
That could get us in trouble, I guess.
And I really don't care.
I don't care.
I've come
either,
around
but
on that. I used to be the old school.
Yeah.
Wonder what they call Dion. They call him Prime. I know Shadura calls him Dad.
Yeah. Well, Jake calls me Dad.
Yeah. I wanted my kids to continue to call me Dad. I didn't expect Brock to call me Coach.
Yeah. There's value in it. I mean, it's it's a discipline.
Well, we talked before about how there has to be a separation between player and coach. Mm-hmm. There has to be, you are in a position of authority, and sometimes the semantics help build that structure of,
right.
Hey Pat, how's it going? Versus, hey Coach.
Right.
It feels different, right?
Yeah, and I think I've seen it with Jeremiah playing for other coaches now, and I've heard him interact with those guys and can call them coach. And I there's an appreciation there for me.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I see how it's been beneficial for him to be in the weight room. And, the challenge is, like, a lot of the kids that I'm seeing coming through high school right now, I've known most of their lives, so they've known me as Pat.
Yep.
Some of these kids have stayed at my house. I've been around them playing ball their whole life, and so they've known me as Pat. And so it's almost habit to just say Pat, and that's kind of our relationship too. So it's hard, but at the same time, there's other kids that don't necessarily have that. What's that? How is that impacting the way that the teams ran and how we communicate and things like that? But I know in the weight room, one of the things that, not just in the weight room, but that's where we're spending most of the time right now. And kids are like, someone will say, "Hey Pat, are we doing 5x5?" Whatever they're asking. Yeah. And someone will say, "What'd you say? What'd you call him?"
Oh, really?
I mean, Coach Martin. And I think Jeremiah being around that has caught on to it. And because, to me, that was my...
Oh, Jeremiah's calling you Coach?
No, he don't call me Coach. No, he calls
the other people that he plays for Coach,
yes.
Even if he's familiar with them as an acquaintance relationship.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that, the good argument is it prepares them, especially if they're going to, go into a position in their next step in life. Yeah, where they're required to show that authority. But
sure.
When you show up on college campus for, I know Ethan Stewart is here at OU. He's playing for OU this year and hopefully next 4. I guarantee he's not going to refer to the head coach by his first name.
Well, it's an interesting thing that you say that, though, because one of the things that I've noticed is the higher up you get in the level of play,
Yeah.
the more likely you are to hear them refer to the coaches by name.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You may have just flipped this all over.
Well, it is. What professional athlete have you ever heard refer to their manager as coach so-and-so? Like
You just
professional baseball player.
They refer to him by their first
They
name.
do. Yeah. Yeah. And it doesn't mean that there's not a respect there. And I'm not saying everybody, it's not 100%, because some of them be like Skip, the skipper, which is a nickname. But I've heard OU players refer to Coach Alvin as Tim. I don't think he minds that at all. He signs all of his emails and texts, Tim and Brooke. It's an interesting thing.
This is groundbreaking. You know what this tells me? I should stick to my guns, Coach. I should stick to my guns. You know what I'm going to do? I'm telling you right now.
Tell all of your players. Call me Pat.
Forever. The handshake line is stupid.
So
you're right now. The handshake line is dumb.
So here's the thing. The problem is you're all talk about it. Here's what I'm challenging you to do. I'm challenging you, do away with it.
I can't
Don't do it this year.
I can't do that.
Since it's stupid, do something about it. Stop shaking hands with the opponent.
Can't do that.
Just shake hands with
someone offers me a handshake, I want to shake it.
Even if they're going out and standing in a line and it's a formality and they're just going to slap it. Good game. Good game. Good game. Good game.
It is. I'm telling you. See, you're starting to come around to me. It's stupid.
I like shaking hands with your own team after you win.
Yes, I do too. Yeah.
And then if you happen to get the other team, okay, cool. Good
like
sportsmanship. That. Good competition today. But we're going to congratulate one another here.
That's what the pros do.
And then they don't even shake hands with the opponent.
No,
right?
They come off and shake hands.
And then, I don't know. Do they hang out with them a little bit after the fourth game of the 4-game series and say? But there is no line, is there?
No. You know what's silly is volleyball.
Colleges
games.
do.
Have you been? I mean, did Kaylee play volleyball?
Oh heck yeah.
Okay.
She loved volleyball.
So
I love volleyball.
I do too.
Yeah.
And after the volleyball game, they'll do the circle and then come through on each side of the net. They slap hands.
Yes.
It's
really
majestic.
The underneath the net. Right.
We're uncovering a lot of challenging topics today that we could probably talk about, and we're getting away from the topic that we were.
We have an actual topic.
Well, speaking of interviews after emotional games, and our hometown guy here, Joe Burrow, after the game, a lot of in my perception, a lot of reporters were wanting to get some kind of soundbite related to how bad the Bengals offense played after that Browns game, and Joe said something pretty good, but he just had a horrible game.
Yeah,
his worst, and it was raining, and this was his first time. There's reasons that he did, but statistically, this was his worst game as a pro. So
yeah, it was raining for Deshaun Watson too.
Sure,
right? I mean,
it was.
I don't think that's an excuse anybody can make.
Yeah,
and he's not. He didn't make it.
No. But he's in it's a tough spot. He didn't play well. Now we're asking, how do you feel? What happened? What's going on? And they're all out there worried. And I think that knee-jerk reaction is typical for athletes, for coaches, and especially for parents. And I know that because I've felt it a lot.
Yeah.
Just in certain situations. I felt it this weekend. Jeremiah went and played in a tournament this weekend, and he actually had a really good weekend. But one of the last at bats he had, he struck out just looked miserable. And it's like all of a sudden you have that sinking feeling that he doesn't know how to play baseball anymore. He's never going to hit again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
Joe Burrow's washed up.
Yeah, exactly.
Signed all that
That's
money.
what I say.
He didn't know how to hit a receiver anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and I think, but we laugh at that, but I feel like sometimes we have that. It's like there's a panic to us.
And you feel sometimes even as a player, you feel that.
Yeah.
Your self-talk is, this is who I am now.
Right.
Have I lost it? Am I not going to be good enough again to be able to play at this level?
Right.
Or any
exactly.
level.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, the topic to talk about today is, how do you handle those situations? What's your thought process when you get in those situations where you have a bad performance, whether it be, a play or a game or a week, what should our mindset be and across the board, coaches, parents, and players, what should our mindset be? When they asked Joe, he said exactly what I expected him to say, because he's Joe Cool, right?
Yeah. He always begins it with,
right. Nobody's panicking.
yeah.
Nobody's panicking, right? Bengals aren't going to panic. They were in the same spot last year.
Nobody that really matters is
right.
panicking.
Right, yeah. And then, they can go out and they can talk about all they want, how he's now the richest player in NFL history, yada, 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 and he threw for
Until the
82
next guy
yards.
signs.
Well, right. Like, give me a break.
That's lost its luster with me. Like, I can't tell you. I mean, these contracts are it's funny money anyway.
It is.
Okay, he's the richest player until whose contract's up next? Josh Allen? Okay, when he signs a new one, he's going to be.
Yeah, as soon as the next quarterback signs, they'll be the highest paid.
Tua.
player. Yeah, true. What do you think? Have you
given us some thought? I have.
Yeah.
My word for the year, and our choose a one word for the year, and I've tried to keep that in the front of my mind. It was really simple. My word was win. It is win for this year, 2023. And there is there's a business principle that and I've heard public speakers talk about it too, or people who give presentations and things, and you have a poor performance, or you make a proposal and it didn't go the way you thought it should be, and they use the term win as an acronym, and they say, what's important now? This is what we got to focus on.
Nice.
So when you've just had a poor performance, it's so easy to want to sort of dwell on really the past is what we're talking about, dwelling on the past, dwelling on what happened 15 minutes ago, an hour ago, 2 days ago, a week ago, whatever it was. And it's okay to use that poor performance, to go back and replay it a little bit, take notes, and we should use those things to get better.
Yeah, it should
right?
hurt.
Yeah, we should learn.
That's good.
Right. But at some point, you got to stop and you got to remind yourself, when, what's important now? How do we move forward and develop a plan from what we've learned from the loss to get better? Because the reality is, I got to do something about it. If I don't want it to happen again, remember this feeling. I have to do something about it, which means I have to take ownership of it as well.
Right. Good point. What if you just get beat, Coach?
Yeah, by a better team.
Yeah. Or,
that day even.
Talk about a hitter.
Right.
Pitch, facing.
Well, and that's the thing. Jeremiah may have just gotten beat.
Right. Well, he did. I mean, that's what
Whether
he did.
that pitcher was a better pitcher than he was a hitter in that at bat, you could break it down to one at bat, one pitch. On that pitch, he was better.
Yeah. Well, what happened was
he fooled him.
He was up 2-0, and the kid threw him two curveballs for strikes. And he took them both.
How often does that happen when you're 13 or 12?
Right. And then he was. I think he pressed a little bit, and
now he's 2-2.
Kid threw another out.
And he's thinking, what's he going to throw me now?
He threw him another curveball outside, and
he went after it.
He went after it. Yeah, and a horrible swing. If he had hit it, it would have landed. It would have
in the dugout.
It would have stayed 3 inches in front of home plate. I mean, it was a horrible swing.
Yeah.
It was just a horrible effort because his approach wasn't great.
So let's stay in that. Like, okay, so now you're Jeremiah, or maybe I'll be Jeremiah, you be you, his dad. Like, what do we do? What do we do now? Right?
Yeah.
Like, how do I analyze that? And
well, it's very
how do I
simple.
win?
We had the
how do I win with
we
that?
had the conversation.
There you go.
The conversation was, why did you?
What were you thinking? Why'd you swing?
I was giving, we've
all the way home on the drive.
No, we didn't. It was actually the next day.
See, you're growing.
But
we're growing here.
But he said, I'm not good on outside pitches. And I said, well, that wasn't an outside pitch. It wasn't even close to being outside. But I said,
that was just a bit outside, Bob Uecker.
What he's saying is true. He has this habit of giving up on outside pitch instead of letting it travel and driving it the other way in the inside of the baseball. And he said, it's just tough for me to do. And I was like, yeah, we'll work on that. We'll hit outside pitches. Yeah, we'll take those reps to get better at you hitting an outside pitch, and so you'll be prepared to do it. But I also told him, I know you can hit that outside pitch because yesterday or Saturday when you hit one, you hit a triple to the right side that was an outside pitch. So you're good enough to hit that outside pitch. So when you go up there and I don't want you thinking I can't hit an outside pitch. Right. You know what I mean? And I think that's so.
You turned the negative into the you reminded him of who he is, and what he's capable of doing, and that's what needs to play through your head as you get in that box.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And you're going to. I had a girl tell me this past week. She plays travel softball, a pretty high level travel softball. Mm-hmm. That she's been playing bad and she has 4 strikeouts and I'm like, it's hard.
Yeah,
the game's stinking hard. Yeah. But you can hit. You've hit before at this level. You'll hit again. But sometimes that's just the result that happens, and we can't say, "Oh, I stink." Evaluate it. What was your approach?
Learn how to develop a plan from that to get better from it.
Right. Absolutely.
This is the very reason why I have I act like I've done this all the time. One of the new things I did this year was have our hitters keep a hitter's log, where we had blank. They weren't blank sheets. There were sheets that they could take notes. Did I ever show you this sheet?
You hid that from me.
I think I did. I got it from Brock, actually. Something that they did with a lot of college programs do this, but they come in after the at-bats, at some point after the at-bat. It can't always be immediate. But so I have a player in the dugout who's designated to take as many notes as he can, like what the pitch sequence, what you see pitch one, where was the location, what did you do, things like that. And then I have the hitters at some point before your next at bat go back through, look at the notes from that last at bat, jot down what you can learn from it going into the next one. And so, like, let's say Jeremiah's doing that, right? Let's say this is how you win, really, from he had a poor performance at that at bat. Mm-hmm. So I might say, okay, let's think about the pitches that you saw. Right. You were up 2-0 and you were assuming you're going to see a fastball, and that's good. That's the pitch that you could hit well. So you took it and it was a strike. And you're like, ooh, he got lucky with that one. He fooled me with that. He's probably not going to do it again with 2-1. He did it again. Right. And so now you're thinking. So now what do you think? Ask him, like Kevin. Wilson says, ask the questions. What are you thinking right now?
Right.
What's going through your mind? And one of the questions that I might ask Jeremiah is, did you recognize what his curveball looked like? Mm-hmm. Did it look different than the fastball? And when you recognize, like, how soon, like, are you able to recognize it soon enough to notice that, okay, this is a curveball. Mm-hmm. It's starting outside, which means it's probably going to end up further outside. Right. I do have 2 strikes, but I don't have to swing at this because it's not going to be a strike. Right. If it ends up hanging over the plate and it's strike 3, no big deal, right? I mean, it really isn't a big deal. Yeah, you struck out looking, but you have a reason why you didn't swing at that pitch. Right. It should have been a ball, and it was just a bad pitch, and it ended up being a strike. So it ended up being a good pitch. Yep. It's just the way baseball is, right? But those are that is and that's in a really short span of time, 45 seconds or so. I want our guys to write those kinds of things down, to think through those kinds of things.
I like that idea because, one, it keeps them from stewing on it.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times you have a bat, you come over and do they write stuff down on every at bat?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
yeah.
Good.
And I look through the notes after the games too, because then in our scenario, we often see the same pitcher a second time.
Right.
And now you've got 4 pages, 4 at bats to go back, and this is how he pitched me last game.
Right.
And
Right.
it didn't matter when we faced you guys because it was just strikeout, strikeout, strikeout. We just saw fastball, and then for some reason he throws Jace Bullington a slider and he hits it for a double in the gap.
I think it was a change.
Or change up, yeah, something slower. That's what it was, slower.
Well, you got to work on those pitches, Coach.
It was a perfect time to work on it, an extra innings game.
We were up 5.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks for reminding me.
I was intentional about telling that pitcher he needed to spend more time developing that changeup, but maybe you don't set him up quite that way. Fastball, changeup, right?
Yeah,
Don't speed his bat up.
because he had some good swings on the fastballs even.
Yeah, maybe that is where you want to throw that slider away or something
Yeah.
like that. So, but
You know,
we
the-
don't have to talk about that anymore, do we?
Nope.
Old number 2's out of
It's
there.
time to next man up for you.
Where do we leave off?
The Army has a similar tactic for poor performance. And we're talking about life or death scenario now. You go into battle or you have a project that you need to go out on, a mission, and they call them AARs. I didn't just know this off the top of my head. I looked this up in preparation for today. The AAR stands
You
for
don't have to confirm that.
After Action Response. I could act like I just knew this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Don't we steal everything anyway?
We do. There's nothing new under the sun, Solomon says in Ecclesiastes.
There you go.
That's right. Everything is borrowed. You can just forget what your source was. That's the key to creativity, right?
So what's an AAR? What is it?
After Action Response or Reviews. After Action Reviews. And what they do is that it was developed for the purpose of quickly, because we're talking about having to do this quickly sometimes, right? Like in between an at-bat, for example. It was developed for the purpose of quickly assessing outcomes and then resetting targets in the chaos of battle, basically. And so it's a method of sort of extracting lessons out of an event and then applying them to future events without getting caught up in how you feel. And I think that's my point about taking the notes. So much that is associated with our performance is how we feel about what happened.
Absolutely.
And this is where we get in trouble as parents as well, and even as coaches. Right? Coaches will sometimes explode and get mad. What are they doing? They're showing their feelings. They're wearing their feelings on their sleeve.
Yep.
We don't want our players to do that.
Nope.
And so I think one of the worst things that we can do after a poor performance is stay too long in our feelings. At some point we got to say, okay, AAR, let's act for action response. What do I do? What do I do? And here's the actual structure. They got 4 questions they ask. What happened? What worked well? What didn't? What will be done differently or better next time? And that's it.
Yeah.
Move forward, bounce back.
Yeah.
That's what Joe's doing this week, getting ready for the Ravens.
Speaking of Joe, did you see the interview that Jimmy and Mrs. Burrow gave about visiting Joe?
I did not.
They said he won't let them come over
During the season, or
before a game. Like they only see him after a game
I don't think they let him. I don't think he lets him come over after a loss.
Oh, really?
Also,
I thought that was interesting and funny, but that's who he is. Like we always talk about we've talked about Joe and how he's unique and different and kind of a little bit weird, and that's how people saw him, but that's what makes him elite. Like, remember when in the draft before there was nothing elite about Joe Burrow. That's like what they kept saying.
right? Yeah, he has no elite arm.
Yeah,
he has no elite features. Yeah.
That's his eliteness right there. Is his approach and his mentality.
The win.
Yeah.
Just win.
Right.
Whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
It's just hard to put your finger on. It's hard to describe, point out in features of a person.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I think, another thing to think about too is, and you can use Joe as an example. He's lost big games,
oh sure,
and high school championship, state championship,
Super Bowl.
Won the national championship, obviously, but he has experience doing what? Failing.
Yeah.
So when you get in these situations and you have these feelings and these emotions and, something went wrong and you're not really for sure, that first instinct is to, panic and throw your hands up in the air. You remember those times, especially, when we're talking about softball, baseball, games like that, you fail a lot.
Yeah.
That's what the game's almost about. Like, it's who can fail the best. When I say that, it's who can recover
Right.
from it. You know what I mean? That's a big part of it. But you can go back and you can remember those times that you failed and recovered, but also look at the situation that you're in as a positive in that manner of knowing that in the future, you can look back on this time and see how you responded to it and how you found your way back to where you wanted to be. So it's actually, it's kind of like the when the manager model feedback that there is no negative or positive feedback. There is only feedback. And you use that to take the next step.
Yeah, I was reading something about feedback also the other day, and I heard somebody say there's no such, like, this whole mindset of moving forward after a poor performance and you evaluating what happened in order to use it to get better. It's more what they call it, feed forward almost. It's not feedback. It's it's like
I like that.
Yeah, it's feeding forward in a way, instead of feeding back.
Yeah, because feedback has a little bit of a negative connotation to it.
Yeah,
It's like
you're looking
feedback.
backwards.
Yeah,
right. And so the idea is, let's fix it. Let's fix it.
Right.
Don't dwell on it. It's what matters now. What's important now. Win. Let's move forward.
What about if you're in the middle of the game and say that for just after your first, say it's first at bat, or say, you're a quarterback and your first possession, you throw a interception or, all kinds of situations like this. You take your first three and miss it, you airball it, How do you, basketball would be definitely a good one in this situation because you don't really have that time. Yeah. So what do you do in that case, right? Because you're having a bad game. Maybe you're 0 for 6 shooting.
Yeah.
Panic set in,
Yeah. Yeah, you're 0 for 6 at the line in particular, and now you're at the line at the end of the game, and you got a little bit of time to think about it.
Yeah.
Right? What's going through your mind there? Yeah. I think that's where your Brian Cain principles come in, right? The mindset of I'm visualizing myself succeeding in this.
Yeah.
Regardless if you missed the last 6.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point too. I didn't even think about.
And the whole idea is you're still moving forward. You're moving forward. You're not dwelling on what happened even in this game. It's even more important, I would say, to be able to make that transition in your mind in the heat of the game than it is afterwards. Yeah, you got more time to sit and dwell on it and mope about it afterwards. But if you have any moping or dwelling in a game, you're done.
Right. And I think that's good. That's a great point to support the idea of practicing those mental responses to failure, during practices, as coaches, giving our players the opportunity and like emphasizing, look, hey, you're having a horrible practice.
Yeah.
Well, so what?
Now let's practice how you're going to respond to the horrible practice. What is your system?
Sure, because in my mind, I was thinking, when you're in the heat of the game and you don't have that time to review or, to adjust, you fall back on your training. You fall back on your preparation, and you trust that preparation. So the next time you get up to the plate, next time you get a shoot, whatever it is, you have the confidence because you're prepared to do that. Yeah. It doesn't matter that you're 0 for 6.
Yeah.
You know how to do what you're doing,
Yeah.
and you're prepared to do it. So you fall back on that and trust yourself.
Didn't Tim Grover give Michael Jordan an idea for something to do in the middle of a game when, like something about reaching down and grabbing the hem of his shorts and putting his hands on his knees? You know, like
Well, that's all. That's a Brian King concept too, right? Like
something
to clear,
physical.
clear,
yeah.
to clear your mind, take a breath.
It's releasing this from.
I don't remember reading that in.
That may have had
Relentless,
something
but-
more to do with him when he legitimately being tired during a game, and people were like, "Don't put your hands on your knees." He's like, "Yeah, do it. Don't give a crap what anybody else says. Do it.
Yeah.
Grab a hold of him of your shorts and put your hands on your knees."
We'll talk about old school. You know, that's actually there's a school of thought that says bending over and putting your hands on your knees is actually the best way to stand when you're tired. Now,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's a natural response
Right.
to being tired. That's the way your
Right.
body needs to.
Yeah.
To revive itself, but
Yeah,
we've
there's
always taught stand up, hands
And
on
put your
head.
hands over your head.
And that-
But-
and
but
I've-
wouldn't we do that? Like if it was actually physiologically easier to breathe by doing
We'd
that,
find that.
Wouldn't we do that?
Yeah,
But why do we put our hands down on our knees? Because
it's easier. It's
feels
natural.
better.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I need to get my breath.
Wonder how many people out there want to argue about that.
But I think that study has been, I think Tim Grover actually talks about that. And maybe in Winning, his book Winning, I
Yeah.
think he maybe actually talks
I haven't
about the
read that yet.
science
I
of
need to
that,
read that.
of that being one of the things that's been debunked. That's in the same field as putting ice on after you pitch.
Debunked as in don't put your hands on your head.
Do the knees instead
Yeah,
of
I've heard
over the
that.
head.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Like you're not actually opening the diaphragm.
Did you
when
just
you
say
put your-
don't put ice on your arm after you pitch?
We don't do ice at all. Yeah.
Holy
and now if
cow.
you're hurt, we will do ice, but we're not going to put ice on anything for soreness. We want to get that blood flowing faster, not slower.
What would you prescribe after a day of pitching and your arms got a little bit of soreness?
We do exercise. We do some exercise. Yeah.
Yeah, weight room.
We don't do slow running. We don't do
Oh, long
jogging.
distance.
Yeah, distance running. That's not doing you any good either.
Nah.
There is no such thing as working out lactic acid from your.
Oh man, we're dropping bombs out.
There just isn't. I mean, and so
That's
it's-
what I've been taught my whole life.
Of
Coach.
course, that's what
Lactic.
we've all been taught. Yeah. Yeah.
Get pole to pole, pole
Yeah.
to pole.
2014, the guy that came up with the rice theory, in 2014, he came on to I don't know, he was doing an interview and he's like, yeah, that's
Now I've heard
that's not something that I even adhere to anymore.
I've heard recently that there's not a negative impact. There's not a positive nor a negative to applying ice. However, I feel like it constricts blood.
The negative is you're actually slowing down your healing process.
you're constricting
It's going to take longer to recover.
to get oxygen. You're keeping oxygen from getting to your muscles.
Yeah, you may reduce the soreness or the swelling, but you're also slowing down the blood as it's moving through that area, and you want it to speed up. You want the junk and the crap that's in your system, scar tissue, to get out faster.
What do you do if a player comes to you and says, "Coach, I need some ice, my arms
We
hurting"?
just don't. I mean, our guys, we're at the point now where guys just we explain to them at the beginning of the season why we don't do ice.
Yeah.
And we give them the layman's version of that science, which is the only version I know.
Right.
I mean, through Brock's smarter than me on this. He's given me the technical terms that I don't understand the words,
Yeah.
but and they just buy in. They're like, okay, I believe it. And
Well, good
like
for you.
Rockhold, like Rockhold's one of our guys. He actually has felt a difference in it. He's like, I feel like I can actually come back and pitch on day 3 now.
Nice.
As opposed to
I saw Brady last night to the game. He looked
He's
like
a good kid.
big, strong kid right now.
yeah. Oh yeah, he's committed.
Mhm.
Yeah.
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 I do kind of the same. Normally if a kid comes to me and says, I say, "Oh, are you hurting? Does it hurt?"
Are you injured?
Yeah.
That's the question I ask. Are you injured? Like you sprain your ankle, right? You actually have an injury, and we need to ice that.
And then I'll be like, if you really want it, okay, but I wouldn't. Here's why.
If you've torn something in that arm or that elbow, that shoulder, and you,
Even then, though, if you've
I mean,
torn
what are you going to
something,
do? You're not going to play with it anyway like that. But
Right.
You're
I mean,
gonna,
what's the
you're
ice
gonna,
gonna
You're going
do
to
at that-
manage the pain and the swelling at that point.
yes,
Right.
swelling.
But-
And I don't. I mean, to manage pain. I mean, if you're going to manage pain, take some
Right.
Take
right.
some ibuprofen or something, you know.
But all the athletic trainers, all the schools that have athletic trainers, I should say, after the game, when they come over and say, Coach, how many bags of ice do you need? And I say, we don't do ice. They all smile and give me the thumbs up. Like, and I've even had a couple say, I wish you could talk our coach into that. She's like, I've tried to explain to them that's not doing our kids any good. It's actually going to hinder their time of recovery. And
there's still a debate out there, though. I think there's still some people.
There could be a debate, but the science has actually proven otherwise.
Well, I mean, some people
like,
don't believe in
you're
science.
basically debating. You're debating something that's been disproven. So you're you're choosing to be on the losing side of the debate.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
If you're debating it.
I guess I just base that like I read both sides, and that's what I base my opinion on.
Well, there is no science on the side. All there is on the side of use ice is this is the way we've always done it.
Yeah.
It worked for Nolan Ryan. Actually, you know what Nolan Ryan did after a game? He went and lifted.
That's what I was. Yeah.
He went back in the clubhouse and lifted and cranked
Just
out
that same
bench
day.
presses. Yes. Yeah. That's what we. I mean, we don't. I don't act like we go in the weight room after games.
You sprint,
but we don't even do that.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes, yeah, but I probably should. We probably should do that more often. I don't know. I need to do a little more research on what we should be doing immediately afterwards. I mean, if it's a home game, we do jobs. We're moving around. We're doing stuff.
And and what's that doing?
And it's the same.
It's
the same.
Your heart's beating.
Yeah.
It's getting oxygen to those muscles. That's what it needs to rehabilitate.
Exactly.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Away games, we're getting cheeseburgers and stuff.
Right. The key. All right.
Yeah.
So we covered. Everyone knows how to deal with failure now as coaches, parents, and.
Well, since we mentioned Brian Cain, let me give some Brian Cain, a little Brian Cain moment here.
Sure, go ahead.
Because Brian Cain talks about he has this chart that I put in. I did a little printout of it here.
Can you just talk about who Brian Cain is real quick?
Sure.
We might have some.
He is the owner of Peak Performance, which is his company. He's not a motivational speaker. He's just a flat out beast. He is motivating as a person.
Yeah.
He's a sports psychologist, essentially.
Yeah, sports psychologist. So I would encourage everyone to start looking into that.
Buy his books. If you get a chance to see him speak, you will be worn out after 40 minutes seeing him speak, right? But he talks about the different kinds of mindsets that athletes can have. So there are basically two different mindsets that we could have. And he actually borrows this from psychologist Carol Dweck, who coined the terms fixed and growth in terms of what kind of mindset that we all have. And he says a fixed mindset is the average mindset, which is, so like my intelligence, my talent, my ability, it is the way it is. There really isn't anything I can do about it. I am who I am, right? People with a fixed mindset also tend to believe that the only thing that creates your success is your level of talent. Your effort really has nothing to do with it. If you got talent, you're gonna succeed. A growth mindset, he says, these are elite people. A growth mindset says my intelligence, my talent, my ability can be developed through dedication and hard work. And so you may have talent, you may have a lot of talent, you may have a little talent, but wherever you are, you can get better. That's the idea. Yep. And so then he has this little chart. He says, so people with an average mindset feel sorry for themselves. People with an elite mindset are so focused on others that they don't have time to feel sorry for themselves. That's the difference. People with an average mindset make an excuse. People with an elite mindset make it happen. So I'm starting to get fired up now. Like I hear Brian Cain say this. People with an average mindset focus on how they feel. People with an elite mindset focus on how they act and what they need to do next. That's what elite is, right? People with an average mindset, they wear their emotions on their sleeves. We talked about that.
Ooh, yes.
People with an elite mindset, they never show weakness through emotion. It just isn't part of it. Their body language is the same. It's cool all the time.
I like it.
It's not hot. It's not cold. It's cool. Yep. People with a average mindset, they see failure as final. Well, that's it. People with an elite mindset see failure as positive feedback.
Yeah,
the only way to get feedback on your performance is if you fail.
Yeah, because if you
succeed, you're not really learning anything.
Right. Yeah. Reinforcement, I guess, of what you're doing. Yeah. But
there's a whole bunch more in that list, but you get the idea.
You got tired. Ryan
I know.
Royale.
He could spout those things off, and at the same time do this. Hey. Right? What's the little thing he does? Hands up, hands up, hands up, hands up. And then
I don't know.
He's got this
I
hand
haven't
out
seen-
here. Like, I don't know. He's got all kinds of little. He's got
You've seen that?
he's
on
got just
YouTube?
as many acronyms and quotes as Jake Trotsky.
Yeah. Is Trotsky, does he pattern himself after Brian Cain, you think, or are they? That's a good question.
Which one? Who came first, the chicken or the egg?
Yeah, right.
I don't know.
Trotsky's great too, man.
He is. He just annoys me a little bit.
Same.
Yeah.
He does, because it's all.
He has a lot to offer,
and
for
it's,
sure.
it's all that. Like, it's all, you have to interact with me.
Yeah,
it's
like no, I don't.
Teach me.
Just I don't learn that way, right? I'm soaking it in. You do what you do, and I'll take it. But I'm not gonna remember all these little things that BCD and ACR and all that. Like what?
Let me write it down.
Yes, give me a chance to write this stuff down.
Coach, appreciate you if you're listening, which I expect you aren't.
Wouldn't that be awesome? Just get a message from dudes. Why you throw me under the bus for?
Shoot.
UTB. What do you mean UTB? Under the bus. You threw me under the bus.
Oh, shoot. Good stuff. I guess we'll talk next week.
Yeah. I mean, we had a nice conversation. That's the idea, but behind this podcast, have a nice conversation about something that could be hopefully useful.
Yep, and I'm going to try. I have been slacking big time on my marketing of our podcast. I haven't been posting the links and stuff, so I'll try to pick that up a little bit.
We need to get us a marketing person, don't we?
I need to grow a little bit.
We need to get somebody who's willing to take our links and post them in the comments section under every sports post that they see. Have you seen those?
Yes.
Isn't that annoying?
Oh my gosh! Or
Watch the live video here.
Yes. Ugh. That's a bit. There's all kinds.
Those are phishing scams, aren't they?
Yes, and there's all kinds of that stuff, like crazy stuff. Like if you go to like a police department, local police department page, people will put responses on those to like videos of. Can't believe the police responded this way. You know, it's just like
that clickbait that makes you want to, our morbid curiosity. We want to click on that.
I never click those.
No,
absolutely not.
Yeah. Or you may do it once.
Yeah, and then you can't log back into your computer.
Yeah. Then you get all these requests sent out to friend you, and people are like, "Wait a minute, aren't we already friends?"
Right.
Oh,
yeah.
That's not me, I guess.
Yeah. Right. So, talk to you next week.